Thank you. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Just getting there.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. Um, all right. So in this little mini series with interviews, we talk about Turner syndrome. And today we're
hmm
going to hear your story. And I was thinking maybe you could introduce yourself first a little bit.
Okay. I'm Tracy Connolly. I've been known I've had Turner syndrome ever since I was a baby, and I now run the Ragdolls UK Foundation in the UK, which is basically supporting girls with Turner syndrome and raising awareness.
Great, nice. Okay. So, is there anything specific you want to tell us about your work first?
Well, the most important thing for us is the awareness, because despite Turner syndrome occurring in about 1 in 2,000 girls worldwide, it's still a condition that very little people have know about or are aware of. So raising the profile of it and letting people know exactly what it is a priority for us at the moment.
Yes, yes, great. So yeah, I will also try to, when we put this video up, I will also try to link so that people can access your work and see what you're doing.
That'd be great.
Yes. So yes, the first question: what is Turner syndrome?
Well, it's a genetic condition where the X chromosome is partly or completely missing in the female. It's something that's been recognised for a while, but there's again not a lot of profile behind it, or medical schools, I think, just kind of brief over it for the most part from what they know about it. So.
Yeah. Okay, so when did you get diagnosed?
I was diagnosed at birth. The nurse at the time had noticed that my foot was swollen, and they took me away and they did various tests, and then that's when they explained to my parents what it was and how it might affect me in later life. So it's something that I've known my whole life. It's just never something that's been a secret or hidden or anything like that. It's something that I've always been very much aware of growing up, going visiting doctors and various different appointments that you end up with. So yeah, it's been a lifelong thing for me.
All right, but how did it affect your family? Like, how did people react?
Well, the way I was raised, it's no more or no less a part of me than having brown hair or blue eyes. It's just one of those things, really. We never really made a big deal out of it. We never felt the need to make a big deal out of it. So we just kind of took it as it came, as I was kind of growing up through the stages from toddler to young children starting school up to puberty, where it became a bit more important to discuss it and to learn more about it. Sorry.
Yes. So what type of Turners do you have, or to what degree?
The type that I have is what's called mosaic, which means that the X chromosome is partially missing or completely missing in some of the cells, not all of them. So I've been lucky in the respect that there's not a lot of the symptoms that really stand out. I was actually always used in the doctor's exams, always participated in the doctor's exams as a kid, because it wasn't quite so easy for them to figure out exactly what it was that was going on. So I did all that growing up as well. So
Okay. Yes. So I just forgot to say in the beginning. Yeah. So I have full Turners, and if people don't know, it's if this is not always the case, I guess, but if you have mosaic like you have, often that leads to less symptoms. However, that's not always the case, because I have never had many symptoms, even though I have full Turners. Yes, so just
Mm-hmm.
know that. But some people that is the case, but not for everybody.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
it is very much a spectrum, and it does affect the girls in various different ways, from greater to lesser degree. So the reason why there's a few of the girls that I know that weren't diagnosed until a lot later in life, and
yeah,
so it had been completely under the radar for most of their existence. So
yeah,
it can be something that's overlooked as well.
yes, exactly, yeah. But yeah, I forgot also to introduce myself first. But yeah, my name is Ellen. I
Hmm.
I live in Sweden,
Hmm.
and I love to dance, um, and grow my own food and read and stuff like that. So yes, and like I said, flute turners and everything. Um, yes. So, like you just said, every turner bill is very different.
Hmm.
But what symptoms do you personally have? And this is like mentally, physically, and everything.
The main symptoms that I've always been kind of noticed in me is I do have the wide curvature of the arms, the wide carriage of the arms, and I also have a short finger,
Mm,
which I
yeah.
tend to use as my party trick with my nieces and nephews. But apart from that, I have a heart condition as well, a discoordination of the heart valves, which has been kept a check on throughout my life. But for most of that, I'm a reasonably healthy individual. Could probably do with eating a little less junk food. But yeah, so far so good.
Okay. Yes, that's good. But is the heart condition the one that you're born with, or I think they're two different, right?
Yeah, I was born with it. I was born with
All
it. Yeah.
right. Okay. Okay. Yes. And also mentally and emotionally, do you think there is something that is affected by Turner syndrome?
I do, as I said, I know quite a few of the girls who are quite emotionally affected by it, but I've never experienced that myself. I try and speak
No.
to them, try and understand where it is that they're coming from, as I said, because I was always raised in such a way where it wasn't made a big deal. I wasn't, sidelined or anything like that. I took part in all the same school activities as everyone else. I was out on my bikes with the same as my brothers as everyone else, and just keeping to normality as much as possible, really. As I think that helped me remain kind of focused through life, whereas some of the girls do need some extra emotional support,
Yes.
which is what we at Ragdolls are hopefully there for, a shoulder to lean on sort of thing.
Yes. All right. Yeah, I actually feel the same also. I also just did the same things as
Mm-hmm.
everyone else. And yeah, it was not really a big deal. Um, so yes, this is because you were born with it. Um, it's kind of weird to ask you how your life has changed when you found out because you were born with it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I am wondering how your um, daily life looks like, considering the fact that you have Turners. Also, when
Mm-hmm.
you were a child. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, my daily life consists of working, keeping my head down, focusing on various things. If there were a big change in my life, it would probably have been about when I was 12, and they were doing the puberty talks in schools, explaining to the girls about menstruation and various things like that. And at that time, I wasn't fully aware of exactly how the Turner syndrome would affect me in that respect.
Mm,
So after I'd had the talk, I went to visit the doctor that I always seen growing up, who'd kind of taken me through all the stages. And that's when he explained to me about Turner syndrome and infertility and the treatments and things like that. And that it was then, when I was about 12, that I learned that it's not likely that I would have a family naturally.
okay.
So that was the biggest change, because I didn't know that beforehand. I wasn't aware of that because I just wasn't really computing it. And, at a 12-year-old, you're not really thinking about having a family anyway. But again, that was still such a young age. So that's in my 30s now. So it's something I've come to accept. It's something that I've never really considered hold me back in any kind of way. And if it came to it, there's always other options. There's adoption and fostering and various other things like that. So that was the big change, but that's basically how I learned to adapt my lifestyle to it.
Okay. Yes, thank you for that. So, yeah, maybe some people actually don't know, but when you have Turners, you have underdeveloped ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I think a lot of people, because it's also so invisible, you cannot know if somebody has underdeveloped ovaries. So, yeah, that's also why a lot of Turners don't have any eggs, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of pressure on, especially young girls these days who maybe don't want to have kids, and they think that that's something that they should have or they need to have or something they need to fulfill, which is putting extra pressure on these other girls who are taking this very, very hard, because that seems to be the infertility seems to be a big problem that crops up in groups and chats all the time. So it's that extra pressure doesn't help, unfortunately, but that's where awareness of Turner syndrome and other options comes in.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Okay, so how do you tell other people that you have Turner syndrome? Or do you not tell anybody? Or how do people react when you tell them?
Well, because of what I do, usually it's one of the first things that people tend to find out about me, because I have rag dolls and things like that. And the first thing they'll ask is, why did you set that up? And I say, well, it's because I'm Turner syndrome as well. And though I've seen some of the girls, I've seen some of the parents in the hospital waiting rooms, and it can be frightening, and it's very frightening. And so I'm looking to help them. As I said, that's always been my kind of life mission, so it's always one of the first things that people learn. So it's not something that I hide, it's something that I explain outright when people are asking about me. Any partners I've had have always been quite clear that, yeah, I'm not really interested in having kids anyway. So that's something that would be fair to bring in quite soon. Plus the fact that I have 10 nieces and nephews that keep me very much occupied. So, so as I said, it's just a part of me, as much a part of me as everything else.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Do you feel like you have support from friends and also other Turner girls?
I do. It's one great thing about the modern world is being able to connect to so many different people. I mean, here I am speaking to you yourself there. And so the world is open to be able to talk to people from all different experiences and all different patches of life. So there is lots of support out there. And the best thing to do is try and guide people to the right support that they need. But there's plenty of support out there. And my family have always been very encouraging as well. And I've always been lucky to be surrounded by supportive friends and friends that are always willing to help me out whenever anything gets on top of me.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Okay. So what is your experience with doctors and doctors' appointments in hospitals?
Growing up, visiting hospitals became a part of life. It was just something that was often done. As I said, the day that it was explained to me, the infertility thing was explained to me, I think my mum was more upset than I was, because I said I wasn't really comprehending it at 12 years old. But the doctor that I had then, Dr. Donaldson, he was very patient and very good at explaining it to me without, complicating it or talking down or anything like that. He was a very, very good doctor that way. So I've always had positive experiences of hospitals. I never ever seen it as somewhere to be frightened of or whatever, because I always knew the staff, and the staff were always great. And I've been lucky in that respect, not to have too many negative experiences. So
yes. Okay. Well, that's good, because there are a lot of Turner girls who have like negative experience with hospitals also. So do you feel like the doctors treated and are treating you in a good way?
Yes, very much so. Very
Yeah,
much so. They're doing everything they possibly can to make sure that I'm healthy and know all my options and keep an eye on me, especially with the heart, because it's always been something that's obviously been a bit worrying throughout life. But yeah, they've been brilliant. They've been brilliant between, because I've moved between a couple of cities, because I went to
okay.
in Scotland. I grew up and lived in Glasgow, but then when I went to university, I was up in Aberdeen. So even the switch between those two cities, the staff and everything have been amazing at helping me out. So
That's great. Okay. So what is your experience with medications?
again, that just becomes part of the routine, doesn't it? You've got tablets to take, so you take them. I can be a
Yeah.
bit forgetful. I'm not proud to admit. So sometimes it kind of goes, and I'm like, oh no, I need to get back on top of this. Keep the medication up for my own sake. I don't want to be a hypocrite telling all the other girls, like, no, you need to do this and you need to stick to that, but when I'm not doing it myself. So, a bit of the old needs to be kind of grinded every now and again, but yeah, sticking with the medication and following the instructions, trying my best to keep myself healthy out with that, with exercise and things like that.
Great. All right. Okay. So next question is, have you ever gotten bullied because you have Turner syndrome?
I had some teasing as a kid. Most people do. Never was it about Turner syndrome uh, that I can recall. Never that specifically. So no, not for me, fortunately. As I said, I know that's not the case for everyone, that some people have had quite a hard time because of it, but luckily for me, no.
No. All right. Yes. Yeah, I know some Turner girls do. Um, yeah, they get some teasing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So how does Turner syndrome affect you today?
Health-wise, looking after the heart, making sure that, that I keep on top of that. So conscious of things like too much overexertion or not eating the right things. I need to pay attention to that. Could admittedly be paying more attention to that.
Mm.
Mentally, I don't think it affects me too much. Some people might agree that I get a bit over emotional. I don't know if that's just maybe me or if maybe that's something that comes with Turner syndrome. But coping mechanisms, learning more coping mechanisms and working through that is how I manage it. So
Yes. Yeah. Um, all right. Yes. I think the heart. How often do you check your heart?
I usually go for an annual checkup with the
Yeah.
cardiologist. So luckily I'm not having to do it all times. There's been no major concern over the years. When I was about, I think it must have been about when I was 13, I had to go for a cannula operation, which is basically a balloon put down in the arteries to widen them because it had narrowed too much.
Mm.
But apart from that, that's the only major surgery that I've had to have. They did say that if it might reoccur when I get older, they might narrow again when I get older, so they're keeping an eye on it. But luckily, everything's been fine since then. So,
All right. That's good. Okay. Yes, I think if I'm not wrong, every turn because I check my heart every third or fifth year. I think. I think every turn depending on.
yeah,
Yeah, always check your heart.
yeah, because the risk of any problems is quite high in Turner's girls, so it's always advised to make sure you keep an eye on it and try and stay as heart healthy as possible.
Yes. All right. So for you, what is the most negative and the most positive thing about Turner syndrome?
The most negative thing would be the health issues that comes with it.
Yeah.
That would be the most negative thing. The most positive thing is, I guess, being given the opportunity to speak to some of the other girls and who are worried about what they can maybe expect, or even the parents who have like small babies and what they can expect. Because again, there was nothing really much known about it when I was diagnosed as a baby, and gradually getting more and more information now, but being able to speak to someone who's been through it all is usually helpful. So that would be the positivity to take out of it.
Yes. Well, I was also wanting to ask you, because the awareness
Mm-hmm.
that could be very much more spread.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, how is that done in your work?
Mostly because we're just a small charity, it's mostly social media campaigns that we work on. Hopefully we're working out to a bit more poster campaigns, getting into the clinics at the hospitals, being able to get a chance to speak to some of the parents, and referrals to us from the doctors. That's our kind of goal at the moment, to try and spread as much as possible and use what notoriety we have to our advantage. So
Yeah.
more people we can tell, better.
All right. Yes, because I've had parents writing to me that their children cannot get help in some countries, and the doctors, which is, I think many Turner girls can recognize this, because it's often, they also told me, no, you're just short, it's nothing, and then you don't get tested, and some people cannot actually get any help with this. So yes.
Yeah. One of the interviews I'd done before, afterwards, a mother contacted me. Her daughter was Turner syndrome, but she was really young. I think she was only about 5, 6 at the time. And she was just so glad that I'd come out and actually spoke about Turner syndrome and what it means, because she was, as far as she was concerned, nobody really knew, or she didn't know anybody that had it. So she was glad that there was someone else there that her daughter could see and interact with if need be. So it does make a difference. It does make a huge difference.
Yeah. All right. So what, I think you already answered this, but what does a normal day look like for you? What do you love to do? What do you have passion goals?
Well, when I'm not working away, I'm usually got my nose in a book. I've always been a complete bookworm ever since I was a kid. I love going swimming, and I do enjoy being active, out and about, going walks and whatnot. So yeah, to try and keep myself busy.
Yeah, nice. All right. So do you believe that there is a reason that you got Turner syndrome?
Possibly. I mean, it could be, but as I said, the only way Turner syndrome for me is just as much as my hair color, or everything else about me. So it's not something in specific that says, "Oh, I've been given this for whatever reason." That being said, that's probably why I'm trying to use it as a positive as much as possible as well. But yeah, I think if there were a reason, it would be to try and be positive and help other ones with it.
Yes. All right. So having Turner syndrome, what have you learned about life?
Well, I learned that life is short. There's no pun intended. That there's no. It makes no sense to beat around the bush or hassle yourself about things that aren't worth it. There are important goals. There are people who will be around you to support you, and there's people that you need to be around to support. So that's the main lesson I would have taken from it. And appreciate all the differences in people as well. It's because we're all very much unique. So, you know, and that just having Turner syndrome, I guess, highlights that in a way when you meet all the other girls and all the different ways that they are. It's you know, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Yes. So right now, the only treatment for Turner syndrome is medication. You know, you get the estrogen and the growth hormone, but I've never really liked medications because of like what's in them and all that kind of stuff. So I started taking care of myself in other ways. Like taking nanoparticle silver and gold and like just nourishing myself more and taking care of myself more mentally. And yes, so after that, I actually didn't have to take my medication anymore to get period. So I got it like by myself after that. I'm just wondering like what you're thinking about that.
No, that's great. That's a great outcome. Obviously, taking care of yourself is first and foremost priority. You know, no matter what, you're going to need a healthy body, regardless of what, you know, the future holds. So
exactly.
The more you can do that, the absolute better. You know. So
yes. Exactly.
No, that's great to hear. It is great to hear.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just the reason why I am also asking this is because sometimes I think that some symptoms, actually, this is not only times, but sometimes the symptoms might come from the medications. And obviously, you can see some like symptoms that are for every Terra girl, even if they don't take the medication.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yes. What do you think should be researched more about when it comes to Turner syndrome, and what needs to change in that?
I'm thinking since infertility seems to be the hot button issue, I think the focus could be a lot on that. I've not read much of the research that's going on recently about in terms of the growth hormone treatments or anything like that.
I haven't seen
So
it.
so I'm not really. I wouldn't want to guess where that could possibly go in the future. I wouldn't want to make any guesses on that. But fertility treatments and making options available to the girls is, I think, would probably be the best focus at the moment. Just going by what everyone's saying and how important that is to them and how much they feel about it. So yeah, I think that should be the focus.
Yeah, I also feel like the main issue seems to be also the infertility and it seems to be like that also. I mean, here in Sweden, if you have Turner syndrome, you after like you are 18, you get transferred to other hospital, and that is often connected with doctors that are working with egg donation and things like that. But yes, I haven't heard any new research about that connected to Turner syndrome. But yes, so if you had the power to directly influence, which I guess we can, how Turner syndrome is being handled by society, what would that look like?
Definitely making more people aware of it. That is very important, and making more information available about it, more support if possible. As I said, there's lots of great support out there. There is, but there could be more, and there probably should be more available. Yeah. So that would be the focus that I would have if that was a possibility.
Yes. All right, so what do you think? Yeah, you just answered that. Like, what do you think is good today about the way that it's being handled?
I have seen a lot of the great support groups and a lot of the girls coming together, creating their own sort of chat groups and things like that. It's always amazing to see, and it's always amazing to be a part of as well. And seeing how supportive these girls are of each other, no matter what, even issues outside of Turner syndrome, like personal issues,
Yeah.
boyfriend issues, various things like that, and they're all willing to discuss it and come together. So it's amazing. It's one of those things that you don't see often enough, I don't think. So yeah, that's one of the great things about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on the Facebook group, there is often people posting that they're gonna have some chat or like live chat or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, is there anything else that you would like to share, or yes, in general?
Just that we're all unique. We all have our positives, we all have our negatives, we all have our ups and downs. So it would be just don't let that get on top of you in any way. Just carry on the best you can.
Yeah.
That would be my sage advice.
Yeah, actually, the last question is, what tips do you have for other Turner girls?
Well, the other Turner girls, we just by being born, we've already defied expectations. We've already shown how strong that we can actually be. So my advice to other girls would be to reach out to the support that's there if you need it. There's all kinds of different support for various different needs. And most importantly, know your worth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So, yeah, I was just also wondering if there's anything else you would like to say about maybe how people can contribute with your work. Or,
Well, we're always happy for people to get in contact if they're wanting to volunteer, if they're wanting to support us in our campaigns in any kind of way, or even just to have a gab on the phone about what exactly Turner syndrome is, for more people to learn about it as well. So anybody who wishes to get in touch, that would be great. We'd be happy to hear from you. So the more the merrier, really.
yes, that's good. All right. Yes, that was all the questions.
All right.
And I hope that you also got to say what you wanted. So, yes.
No, that's great. It's been lovely chatting to you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'll let you go. Bye.
Bye.